The morning sun cast long shadows across the dusty grounds of Willow Creek Horse Auction. Pickup trucks and trailers filled the makeshift parking lot. Their owners gathered in small clusters, speaking in hushed tones about bloodlines and auction estimates. The scent of hay, manure, and worn leather hung in the warm summer air, familiar to everyone who belonged in this world of horse trading and championship dreams. Everyone except Lily Morgan. 17-year-old Lily stood at the edge of the property, separated from the crowd not just by distance but by an invisible barrier of social standing. Her faded jeans were frayed at the ankles, her oversized flannel shirt had seen better days, and her dark brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. But what people noticed first, what always drew stares and whispers, were her bare feet, calloused and dusty from walking the 3 miles from her family's struggling farm. "Look at that girl," a woman in expensive riding boots murmured to her companion. "No shoes at an auction. Who does she think she is?" Lily heard but pretended not to. She'd grown accustomed to such comments since her family lost almost everything in the past 2 years. First came her father's accident that left him with a back injury no doctor could fully repair. Then the medical bills, followed by the slow, painful selling off of their once thriving horse breeding operation. Now, all that remained was their small farmhouse, 10 acres of land, and one aging mare named Penny, her father's first successful breeding project 20 years ago. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, wiggling her toes in the dirt. Shoes were a luxury they couldn't afford, not when every penny went toward keeping their property from foreclosure. Her mother had offered her own worn sneakers that morning, but Lily refused. She wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here for Thunder. As if summoned by her thoughts, a powerful black stallion was led into the viewing area, his coat gleaming like polished onyx in the sunlight. Standing 17 hands high with a muscular build that spoke of both speed and stamina, Thunder was magnificent, a champion thoroughbred who'd won nearly every race he'd entered until an injury ended his racing career. Now he was being auctioned off for breeding or perhaps pleasure riding by someone wealthy enough to own such a creature. Lily's heart ached watching him. She'd known Thunder since he was a foal. His original owner, Mr. Richardson, had been a friend of her father's. She had helped train the spirited colt, spending countless hours with him before he was sold to a racing stable. Those were happier days, when the Morgan family farm was known for producing quality horses, when her father could still climb atop a horse without wincing in pain, when her mother's smile came easily. Thunder recognized her. As she approached the fence, his ears pricked forward, and he turned his head in her direction, nostrils flaring. The handler, a burly man with a weathered face, struggled to keep the stallion in place as the animal strained toward Lily. "Easy, boy," she whispered, though she stood too far away for him to hear. "He's a beauty, isn't he?" A deep voice spoke beside her. Lily turned to find an older man with silver hair and kind eyes studying her face. She recognized James Harrison, one of the wealthiest horse breeders in 3 counties. His farm produced champions with regularity, and his opinion carried weight in equestrian circles. "Yes, sir," she replied, suddenly conscious of her bare feet and shabby clothes. "Finest horse here." Harrison's gaze lingered on her face. "You're Will Morgan's daughter, aren't you? I remember you from competitions a few years back. Your father bred some fine horses." "Still does," Lily answered defensively, though the words rang hollow. "Just fewer of them now." Harrison nodded, understanding in his eyes. Everyone in the horse community knew about Will Morgan's accident and the family's subsequent financial troubles. "That stallion seems to know you," he observed as Thunder continued to look in their direction, still resisting his handler's efforts to show him to potential buyers. "I helped raise him," Lily said softly, "before Mr. Richardson sold him to Westlake Stables." "Ah, that explains it. Horses never forget." Harrison paused. "So what brings you to the auction today? Certainly not looking to buy." The question, though gently asked, stung. Lily straightened her shoulders. "Just wanted to see Thunder again. Dad couldn't come himself." Before Harrison could respond, a commotion erupted near the stallion. Thunder had reared up, nearly pulling the lead rope from his handler's grasp. Several onlookers stepped back quickly, exclamations of surprise and concern rippling through the crowd. "That animal's dangerous," a woman in an expensive equestrian outfit declared loudly. "Too much spirit for breeding stock. He'll pass that temperament to his foals." "Nonsense," Harrison muttered beside Lily. "That's a quality horse. Just needs the right handling." Lily barely heard him. She was focused entirely on Thunder, who seemed increasingly agitated as more people gathered around him. Without conscious thought, she slipped through the fence rails and walked toward the stallion, ignoring the shouts telling her to stay back. "Miss, you can't be in here," the handler yelled, struggling to control the powerful animal. But Lily continued forward, her bare feet silent on the packed dirt. "Easy, Thunder," she called, her voice calm and steady. "Easy, boy. Remember me?" The stallion's ears swiveled toward her voice. His muscles remained tense, but he stopped fighting the handler. Lily approached slowly, her hand outstretched, palm down in a non-threatening gesture. "That's it," she murmured. "You remember. We're friends. You and I." When she reached him, Thunder lowered his head, blowing softly against her hand. Lily ran her fingers along his sleek neck, whispering words only he could hear. The transformation was immediate and remarkable. The dangerous, uncontrollable stallion became docile, leaning slightly into her touch. The crowd fell silent, watching the barefoot girl calm the powerful animal with nothing but her presence and soft words. Even the handler stepped back, still holding the lead rope, but no longer fighting to control the horse. "Well, I'll be damned," someone whispered. James Harrison watched thoughtfully from his place by the fence. His eyes narrowed as he observed the natural connection between the girl and the stallion. It was rare to see such a bond, the kind that couldn't be bought or taught, only formed through trust and understanding. The auction manager, a portly man named Peterson, hurried over. "Young lady, you need to step away from that horse right now. We can't have unauthorized persons handling the livestock." Lily reluctantly pulled her hand away from Thunder's neck. "He's just nervous with all these people staring at him. He's always been sensitive that way." "Be that as it may," Peterson insisted. "Auction rules are clear. Please return to the viewing area." With one last gentle pat to Thunder's shoulder, Lily turned to leave. The stallion whinnied softly, as if protesting her departure. She paused, looking back at him with an expression of such longing that several onlookers shifted uncomfortably, suddenly feeling like intruders witnessing a private farewell. As she walked back toward the fence, whispers followed her. "Who is that girl?" "Morgan's daughter. Their farm went under after his accident." "Why doesn't she have shoes?" "Poor as church mice now, I heard." "Did you see how that stallion responded to her?" Lily kept her head high, ignoring the comments. She slipped back through the fence rails and found herself face to face with James Harrison again. "Impressive," he said simply. "That horse trusts you." She shrugged, uncomfortable with both the praise and the pity she sensed beneath it. "We have history." "History matters with horses," Harrison agreed, "almost as much as instinct." He studied her for a moment longer before asking, "Will you stay for the auction?" Lily nodded. "I want to see who buys him." What she didn't say was that she'd spent weeks imagining various scenarios where Thunder would go to a kind owner who would appreciate his spirit rather than try to break it. In her most desperate moments, she'd even fantasized about somehow acquiring him herself, a fantasy so impossible it made her chest ache. Harrison seemed about to say something else when a bell rang, signaling that the auction was about to begin. With a polite nod, he moved away, joining a group of well-dressed breeders heading toward the auction barn. Lily remained where she was, watching as Thunder was led away to await his turn on the auction block. The stallion twisted his head, looking back at her, until he disappeared from view. With a deep breath, she followed the crowd into the auction barn, staying near the back where the shadows would hide her bare feet and the tears that threatened to spill down her cheeks. The auction barn was an old structure with high ceilings and worn wooden benches arranged in a semicircle around the central showing area. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight streaming through the windows near the roof, and the air felt thick with anticipation and the mingled scents of hay, leather, and human perspiration. A podium stood at the front where the auctioneer would conduct the sales, and behind it was a large door through which the horses would enter for viewing. Lily slipped into the back row, making herself as small as possible. She was conscious of how out of place she looked among the polished boots, pressed jeans, and expensive hats that surrounded her. Several people glanced her way, but most quickly returned their attention to the catalog sheets listing the day's offerings. Thunder was lot number 23, scheduled to appear midway through the auction. The auctioneer, a wiry man with a rapid-fire speaking style, took his place at the podium and adjusted his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual Willow Creek Summer Horse Auction. We've got some fine animals for you today, so let's get started with lot number 1. A pretty chestnut mare was led in, and the bidding began. Lily watched with detached interest as horses came and went, some fetching impressive prices, others selling for far less than their owners had hoped. She recognized a few of the animals from her father's network of breeding contacts, back when they were still active in the business. It was a stark reminder of how quickly things could change, how easily a family legacy could slip away. 2 hours into the auction, a stir went through the crowd as Thunder's turn approached. There had been rumors circulating all morning about the stallion's potential and his earlier display of temperament. Lily overheard fragments of conversation from the people around her. "Richardson's black thoroughbred is up soon. Heard he's got quite the bloodline, but he's too wild. Did you see how he acted during the viewing? Nearly took out his handler. Only that barefoot girl could calm him down." The last comment made Lily press her toes into the dirt floor beneath her bench, self-consciousness washing over her anew. She wished she could disappear entirely, but she had to stay, had to see this through. "And now, ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer announced, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "Lot number 23, Thunder's Hope, a 6-year-old thoroughbred stallion with an impressive racing record. 17 hands high, excellent conformation, and prime breeding potential. We'll start the bidding at $20,000. Thunder was led into the showing area, his black coat gleaming under the barn lights, his head held high. Unlike during the outdoor viewing, he seemed calmer now, though his ears flicked back and forth, and his nostrils flared as he scanned the audience. Lily held her breath, wondering if he was looking for her. "20,000, called a voice from the front row. Lily recognized Bradley Westlake, owner of the racing stable that had purchased Thunder initially. His presence was surprising. Why would he be bidding on a horse he had already sold? 25, countered a woman in a red blazer whom Lily didn't recognize. "I have 25,000. Do I hear 30? The auctioneer's practiced patter continued as Thunder circled the showing area, the handler keeping a respectful distance while maintaining control of the lead rope. 30,000, came a new voice. James Harrison had entered the bidding. Lily's heart began to race. Harrison's farm was known for treating horses well. If Thunder went to him, at least he would be properly cared for. 35, Westlake responded immediately. 40, Harrison countered. The woman in red dropped out, leaving just the two men to drive the price higher. With each bid, Lily felt a mixture of hope and despair. The higher Thunder's price climbed, the further beyond her reach he became. Yet she couldn't help but be proud of how valuable he was. This horse she had helped raise from a gangly foal. 50,000, Westlake called, an edge of irritation in his voice. 60, Harrison replied calmly. A murmur went through the crowd. Thunder was now commanding one of the highest prices of the day, and the bidding showed no signs of slowing. Just then, Thunder tossed his head and snorted, pulling against the lead rope. His eyes scanned the audience again, more deliberately this time. When his gaze reached the back row, he grew still, ears pricked forward. He'd found Lily. 70,000, Westlake announced loudly. 75, Harrison responded without hesitation. Thunder whinnied, the sound carrying clearly throughout the barn. Several people turned to look at Lily, finally understanding the connection between the barefoot girl and the valuable stallion. She felt her cheeks flush but kept her eyes on Thunder, offering silent reassurance. $80,000, Westlake called, his voice tight with determination. Harrison paused, seeming to consider the bid carefully. The auction barn grew quiet as everyone waited for his response. $80,000 going once, the auctioneer prompted, his gaze fixed on Harrison. The silver-haired breeder gave a slight shake of his head, indicating he was dropping out of the bidding. Going twice. The auctioneer raised his gavel. $100,000. A new voice cut through the tension. Everyone turned to locate its source. A tall man with a sleek suit and dark sunglasses had risen from his seat in the middle section. Victor Crane, the notorious horse trader known for buying champions and selling them overseas, often to buyers who cared more about prestige than the animal's welfare. Lily's blood ran cold. Not Crane, anyone but him. Westlake's face darkened. 110,000, he countered. 120, Crane responded smoothly without a moment's hesitation. The crowd whispered excitedly. This was becoming one of the most dramatic auctions in Willow Creek's history. 130, Westlake called, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. $150,000, Crane said, his tone making it clear he could go much higher if necessary. Thunder grew increasingly agitated, sensing the tension in the room. He reared slightly, causing his handler to struggle once more. His dark eyes found Lily again, and she could read the distress in them. 150,000 going once, the auctioneer called, looking to Westlake. The stable owner hesitated, then shook his head, conceding defeat. Going twice. Lily felt as though she couldn't breathe. Thunder, in Crane's hands. She'd heard the stories. Horses pushed too hard, injured animals discarded like broken toys, sales to questionable foreign buyers. This couldn't be happening. Sold. To Mr. Crane for $150,000, the auctioneer declared, bringing down his gavel with a decisive bang. Thunder reared again, this time managing to pull free from his startled handler. People gasped, some rising from their seats in alarm. But instead of bolting for the exit, the stallion turned and trotted directly toward the back of the auction barn, toward Lily. She stood without thinking, moving to meet him halfway down the aisle. Thunder lowered his head to her, snorting softly, and she placed her hands on either side of his face. "It's okay, boy," she whispered, though the words felt like lies. It wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. The handler approached cautiously, lead rope in hand. "Miss, please, I need to take him back." "Just give me a moment," Lily pleaded, stroking Thunder's neck one last time. Crane had made his way down from his seat and now stood watching the exchange, an unreadable expression on his face. "That's my horse now," he said coldly. "Handler, get him under control." Lily reluctantly stepped away, tears burning her eyes. Thunder resisted as the handler reclaimed the lead rope, but eventually allowed himself to be led toward the exit, where new owners took possession of their purchases. "Wait," Lily called suddenly, unable to stop herself. She turned to face Crane, ignoring the stares from everyone around them. "Sir, please. That horse, he needs someone who understands him. He's sensitive, spirited. He doesn't respond well to harsh handling." Crane regarded her with barely concealed disdain, taking in her bare feet and worn clothing. "I've been dealing with champion horses since before you were born, young lady. I think I know what I'm doing." "But you don't know Thunder," she insisted, desperation making her bold. "That's enough," Crane interrupted. "Handler, take the horse to my trailer." Lily stood frozen in place as Thunder was led away, his head turned back toward her until he disappeared through the exit door. Only then did she become aware of the deafening silence in the auction barn, of all the eyes watching her with mixtures of pity, embarrassment, and curiosity. Cheeks burning, she fled back to her seat, wishing she could vanish entirely. The auction continued, but Lily barely registered the remaining lots. Her mind was filled with images of Thunder being shipped off to some distant country, his spirit broken, his trust betrayed. She shouldn't have come. What had she hoped to accomplish by witnessing this? As the final lot was sold and people began to disperse, Lily remained seated, unsure where to go or what to do. The thought of returning home to tell her father about Thunder's fate was almost unbearable. "Miss Morgan?" She looked up to find James Harrison standing beside her bench. "I'm sorry about the stallion," he said quietly. "I would have gone higher, but Crane's pockets are deeper than mine." Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak without breaking down. "If it helps, I knew Victor years ago. He's a hard businessman, but not cruel to his animals. Thunder will be well cared for at least." "Until he's sold again," Lily replied bitterly. "To someone who won't understand him." Harrison studied her face for a long moment. "You really do care about that horse, don't you? It's more than just knowing him from before." She met his gaze directly. "He deserves better than being a trophy or a breeding machine. He deserves someone who sees him for who he is." A thoughtful expression crossed Harrison's features, but he simply nodded. "I wish you luck, Miss Morgan, and I hope things improve for your family." With that, he walked away, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts and the hollow ache in her chest. The auction barn emptied quickly as buyers rushed to claim their purchases and sellers collected their payments. Lily remained seated, watching people filter out into the bright afternoon sun, their excited chatter about new acquisitions and good deals cutting through her like knives. She couldn't bring herself to leave, knowing that somewhere outside, Thunder was being loaded into Victor Crane's luxurious horse trailer, beginning a journey that would take him far beyond her reach. When the barn was nearly deserted, she finally stood, brushing dust from her jeans in a futile gesture. Her bare feet felt leaden as she made her way down the aisle toward the exit. 3 miles of walking lay ahead of her, 3 miles to compose herself, to figure out how to tell her father that Thunder, the horse they had both loved, was now the property of a man with a reputation for treating horses like commodities. As she stepped outside, shielding her eyes against the harsh sunlight, Lily saw a flurry of activity near the loading area. Trailers were being hitched to trucks, horses guided up ramps, paperwork exchanged. She scanned the scene, searching for Thunder's distinctive black coat. There, at the far end of the line of vehicles, stood Crane's gleaming silver trailer, its expensive custom paintwork reflecting the sun like a mirror. Thunder hadn't been loaded yet. He stood beside it, still held by the auction handler, while Crane spoke with a man in a business suit, probably finalizing the sale. Without conscious thought, Lily changed course, walking toward them. She wasn't sure what she intended to do. Beg Crane to reconsider? Offer Thunder one last reassuring touch? Make a scene that would accomplish nothing except her own humiliation? Yet she couldn't leave without seeing him one more time. She was halfway across the grounds when a hand caught her elbow. "Lily Morgan, isn't it?" a female voice asked. Lily turned to find a middle-aged woman with short auburn hair and intelligent eyes watching her intently. She wore the practical attire of someone who worked with horses for a living rather than the showy Western wear of many auction attendees. "Yes," Lily answered cautiously, trying to place the woman's face. "I'm Dr. Catherine Evans. I was the vet for Thunder's Hope when he was racing at Westlake Stables." Lily's expression softened with recognition. "Dad mentioned you. You helped Thunder recover after his first injury." Dr. Evans nodded. "That's right. I see you're heading toward Crane's trailer. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Victor doesn't appreciate interference." "I just wanted to say goodbye," Lily said, her voice small. "Thunder and I saw what happened in the ring," the vet interrupted gently. "That stallion cares for you. It's unusual, especially for a horse with his temperament. But going over there now won't help him, and it might make things worse." Lily's shoulders slumped. "Then what am I supposed to do? Just let him go?" Before Dr. Evans could answer, a commotion erupted near Crane's trailer. Thunder had reared up again, pulling away from his handler with such force that the man lost his grip on the lead rope. The stallion wheeled around, evading attempts to recapture him, and galloped directly toward where Lily stood with the veterinarian. People scattered, some shouting warnings. Lily heard Crane's angry voice barking orders, but she remained still, holding her ground as the powerful animal charged in her direction. Dr. Evans took a few prudent steps back, but didn't flee entirely. Thunder slowed as he approached, coming to a stop just feet away from Lily. He was breathing hard, nostrils flared, but his eyes were fixed on her with clear recognition. She reached out slowly, and he stepped forward, lowering his head to nudge her hand. "Hey, boy," she whispered, stroking his neck. "You're causing quite a scene." A small crowd had gathered at a safe distance, watching the interaction with fascination. Among them, Lily spotted James Harrison, his expression thoughtful as he observed the reunion. "Get that horse under control." Crane's angry voice carried across the grounds as he strode toward them, two of his employees flanking him. The auction handler followed, looking embarrassed at having lost his grip on the valuable animal. Lily positioned herself slightly in front of Thunder, as if her slight frame could somehow protect the enormous stallion. "He's calm now," she called back. "He just needed reassurance." Crane reached them, his face flushed with anger beneath his otherwise composed exterior. "Young lady, this is becoming tiresome. That horse is my property now, and I won't have you interfering." "I'm not interfering," Lily protested. "I'm helping. He knows me." "Which is precisely the problem," Crane snapped. He turned to his employees. "Get a proper lead on him and load him up. We're already behind schedule." One of the men stepped forward with a new lead rope, but Thunder tossed his head, backing away. Each time someone approached, the stallion became more agitated, yet he remained docile beside Lily. "Mr. Crane," Dr. Evans spoke up, "if I may offer a professional opinion, forcing this horse right now could result in injury, to your men or to the animal himself. That would be an unfortunate start to your investment." Crane's jaw tightened. "What do you suggest then? We can't stand here all day while he throws a tantrum." "Let the girl help load him, Doctor," Evans said simply. Lily held her breath, hardly daring to hope that Crane would agree. The horse trader's cold eyes swept over her, taking in her bare feet and worn clothing with clear disdain. "Fine," he said curtly, "but make it quick." Relief flooded through Lily. She turned to Thunder, taking hold of his halter and speaking soothingly to him. "Come on, boy. It's going to be okay." The words felt like lies in her mouth, but she kept her voice steady and reassuring as she led him toward the trailer. Thunder followed willingly, though his ears remained alert, swiveling to catch any sound of threat. When they reached the trailer ramp, he hesitated, nostrils flaring at the unfamiliar scents. "Easy," Lily murmured. "One step at a time." Slowly, carefully, she guided him up the ramp and into the spacious trailer. It was outfitted with high-end features, padded walls, good ventilation, secure but comfortable restraints. At least Thunder would travel in style, she thought bitterly. Once inside, she began to secure him for transport, her fingers working automatically through tasks she'd performed hundreds of times on her family's farm. This might be the last time she ever touched him. The thought made her movements slow and deliberate, each gesture a silent farewell. "That's enough," Crane's impatient voice called from outside. "My men can finish up." Lily gave Thunder one last pat. "Be good," she whispered, then turned to leave. As she stepped out of the trailer and down the ramp, she found herself face to face with James Harrison once more. He had approached while she was inside, and now stood conversing with Dr. Evans in low tones. Both looked up as she emerged. "Miss Morgan," Harrison greeted her. "A moment of your time, if you wouldn't mind." Lily glanced back at the trailer where Crane's employees were now fussing over Thunder. "I should probably go. I've caused enough trouble." "On the contrary," Harrison said, "you've demonstrated a remarkable skill. That's what I'd like to discuss with you." Confused, Lily allowed herself to be led a short distance away from the trailer, Dr. Evans following beside them. "I've been speaking with Dr. Evans," Harrison began, "and we both agree that your connection with Thunder's Hope is extraordinary. It would be a shame to waste such a natural talent." Lily shook her head, not understanding. What does it matter now? He belongs to Mr. Crane. Harrison exchanged a look with the veterinarian. What would you say if I told you there might be a way for you to stay involved with Thunder's care? Lily's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Victor Crane has extensive holdings, but he's not a horseman himself, Harrison explained. He employs trainers and grooms to handle the day-to-day care of his acquisitions. Dr. Evans has worked with him in the past, consulting on his more valuable purchases. And from what I've seen today, Dr. Evans added, Thunder is going to be a handful for Crane's regular staff. He needs someone who understands him. Lily stared at them both, a wild hope beginning to take root in her chest. Are you suggesting that Crane hire you to work with Thunder? Yes, Harrison confirmed. At least until the horse is settled. It would be a professional arrangement, of course. You would be paid for your time and expertise. But I don't have any formal qualifications, Lily stammered. And Mr. Crane didn't seem impressed with me. Victor respects results, if nothing else, Dr. Evans said. And the results of your interaction with Thunder speak for themselves. Besides, Harrison added with a slight smile, I happen to know that Crane is planning to enter Thunder in the Millfield Classic next month, a prestigious showing event. He'll want the stallion at his best, which means calm and responsive. Lily's mind raced. The possibility of staying with Thunder, of ensuring he was properly cared for, was tempting beyond words. But she also knew it meant working for a man she instinctively disliked, possibly enabling his questionable business practices. I don't know, she said hesitantly. My parents. Our farm needs me. And I'm not sure Mr. Crane would even consider the idea. Leave Victor to me, Harrison said confidently. As for your family situation, perhaps this could actually help. Crane pays well for quality care of his investments. The way he referred to Thunder as an investment made Lily wince, but she understood the reality. In Crane's world, the stallion was exactly that, a valuable asset, not a living being with needs and feelings. Would it be temporary or permanent, she asked. That would depend on Crane ultimately, Dr. Evans replied, but I would guess temporary. A month or two until Thunder adjusts to his new circumstances and completes the Millfield showing. Lily bit her lip, considering. Even a month with Thunder was better than nothing. It would give her time to ensure he was being treated properly, to help him transition, and the money. Her family desperately needed income. I'll do it, she said finally, if Mr. Crane agrees. Excellent, Harrison said, glancing toward the trailer where Crane was now supervising the securing of the rear door. Wait here. Dr. Evans and I will speak with him now. Lily watched anxiously as the two approached Crane, engaging him in conversation she couldn't hear. The horse trader's face remained impassive as Harrison spoke, occasionally gesturing back toward where Lily stood. Once, Crane looked directly at her, his expression calculating. The discussion continued for several minutes, with Dr. Evans occasionally adding what appeared to be professional observations. Finally, Crane gave a curt nod and walked purposefully toward Lily, Harrison, and Evans following. Miss Morgan, he said when he reached her, his tone businesslike. I understand you think you have some special connection with my horse. Lily swallowed hard. I've known Thunder since he was a foal, Mr. Crane. I helped train him before he was sold to Westlake Stables. So I've been told. He studied her for a moment. I'm not sentimental about these matters, but I am practical. That stallion represents a significant investment, and I need him ready for the Millfield Classic. Dr. Evans seems to think you could be useful in preparing him. I can help him adjust, Lily confirmed. He trusts me. Trust is irrelevant, Crane dismissed. Results are what matter. I'll offer you a temporary position, 6 weeks to prepare Thunder for Millfield. You'll be paid weekly, and if he performs well at the showing, there will be a bonus. It was more than Lily had dared to hope for. 6 weeks with Thunder, and payment that could help her family's precarious financial situation. I accept, she said firmly. Good. My estate is 2 hours north of here. You'll need to arrive tomorrow morning to begin work. Crane's gaze dropped pointedly to her bare feet. And Miss Morgan? My staff maintains certain standards of appearance. I expect you to dress appropriately. Heat rose in Lily's cheeks, but she nodded, refusing to show embarrassment. I understand. Then we have an agreement." Without offering his hand to shake, Crane turned and walked back to his vehicle, clearly considering the matter concluded. Harrison stepped forward. "Well done, Lily. I think this arrangement will benefit both you and Thunder." "I hope so," she replied, still somewhat dazed by the sudden turn of events. "Thank you for suggesting it." "Sometimes the right solution just needs someone to voice it," Harrison said with a kind smile. "Dr. Evans and I will check in on your progress. The Millfield Classic is an important event in the show circuit." As the implications of what she had just agreed to began to sink in, Lily felt a mixture of exhilaration and terror. She would be working at the estate of one of the wealthiest horse traders in the country, responsible for his most expensive new acquisition, and expected to produce results. And she would have to explain to her parents why their daughter, who had never been more than a few miles from home, was suddenly taking a job that would separate her from the struggling family farm when they needed every helping hand. But as she watched Crane's trailer pull away with Thunder safely inside, one thought overshadowed all others. She would not have to say goodbye to Thunder just yet. For 6 more weeks, at least, she could ensure he was treated with the care and respect he deserved. That was worth facing any challenge, even Victor Crane. The conversation with her parents had gone better than Lily expected. Her father, after the initial shock of hearing about her encounter with Victor Crane, had nodded slowly, understanding gleaming in his tired eyes. Will Morgan had known Thunder from birth, had helped deliver the gangly black foal on a cool spring morning 6 years ago. If anyone understood Lily's connection to the stallion, it was him. 6 weeks, he'd said, his calloused hand squeezing hers. "That's good money, Lily girl. We can manage without you that long." Her mother had been more hesitant, concern wrinkling her brow. "Victor Crane has a reputation, Lily. He's not known for his kindness." "I know, Mom," Lily had replied. "But this is about Thunder, and the money will help with the mortgage payment." That had settled it. The Morgan family's financial situation was dire enough that they couldn't afford to turn down steady income, especially the generous amount Crane had offered. So the next morning found Lily standing at the entrance to Crane Manor, a small duffel bag containing her meager possessions clutched in one hand, wearing her only pair of shoes, worn sneakers her mother had insisted she take. The estate was everything she'd imagined and more. Wrought iron gates opened onto a long tree-lined driveway that wound through manicured lawns to a sprawling mansion of stone and glass. Beyond the main house, Lily could see extensive equestrian facilities, multiple barns, a covered training arena, outdoor riding rings, and fenced pastures where horses grazed in the morning sun. It made her family's modest farm look like a child's playhouse by comparison. A security guard at the gate checked her name against a list, then directed her toward the largest of the barns. "Mr. Hopkins is expecting you. He's the stable manager," the guard explained, his tone making it clear that Lily should report to Hopkins rather than the main house. Lily thanked him and walked down the paved path toward the barn, her sneakers feeling strange after weeks of going barefoot. Every step revealed more of Crane's impressive operation. Each pasture she passed held healthy, well-groomed horses, thoroughbreds, Arabians, and warmbloods primarily, the breed types favored in the show circuits Crane frequented. The facilities themselves were immaculate, the equipment top of the line. Despite her apprehension about working for Crane, Lily couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement. This was the kind of professional equestrian world she'd only glimpsed at shows and competitions before her family's fortunes changed. Here, horses weren't just beloved companions or working animals. They were elite athletes, pampered and prepared for the spotlight. The main barn was a cathedral to equine luxury, with high ceilings, perfect ventilation, and spacious stalls lined with premium bedding. The central aisle was wide enough for 2 horses to walk side by side, and the concrete floor had been polished to a smooth finish. Everything smelled of leather, clean hay, and the subtle scent of high-end grooming products. As Lily entered, she noticed an immediate shift in the atmosphere. Grooms and exercise riders paused in their morning routines, casting curious glances her way. She was clearly an outsider, from her simple jeans and t-shirt to her obviously worn sneakers. Even with proper footwear, she didn't fit into this polished environment. "You must be Morgan," a crisp voice called from the far end of the aisle. A tall, thin man with silver hair and perfect posture approached. He wore what appeared to be a uniform, khaki pants and a navy polo shirt with the Crane insignia embroidered on the chest. His manner was professional but cool, his sharp eyes assessing Lily from head to toe. "Yes, sir," she replied. "Lily Morgan. Robert Hopkins, stable manager." He didn't offer his hand to shake. "Mr. Crane informed me of your unusual arrangement. I must say, we don't typically bring in untested handlers for our premium stock." Lily straightened her shoulders. "I understand Thunder better than most. We have history." Hopkins raised an eyebrow. "So I've been told. Nevertheless, you'll be expected to follow our protocols and procedures without exception. Crane Manor maintains the highest standards for horse care and training." "Of course," Lily agreed. "I'm here to help Thunder adjust and prepare for the Millfield Classic." Hopkins nodded briskly. "Yes. Well, we'll see what you can contribute. The stallion arrived last night and has been difficult. He's in our isolation barn for new acquisitions." He gestured toward a smaller structure visible through the main barn's rear doors. "You'll work primarily there under my supervision, until I'm confident you understand our methods." The isolation barn turned out to be a scaled-down version of the main facility, with 6 large stalls, a small tack room, and a washing area. Unlike the busy main barn, this building was quiet, with only one other groom present, a young man mucking out an empty stall. And there, in the largest stall at the end, stood Thunder. The stallion's ears pricked forward when Lily appeared, and he nickered softly in recognition. "Hey boy," she said, hurrying toward him. "I made it." Hopkins followed a few paces behind, his expression unreadable as he watched Lily approach the stall. Thunder extended his neck over the door, nostrils flaring as he caught her scent. For the first time since arriving at Crane Manor, Lily felt a sense of belonging. Here was someone who knew her, valued her presence. "He's been refusing feed since arrival," Hopkins noted clinically, "and he nearly kicked Martinez when we tried to check his legs this morning." Lily reached up to stroke Thunder's forehead. "He's just unsettled. New place, new people. He'll calm down once he feels secure." "Mr. Crane expects him in the training ring by the end of the week," Hopkins stated. "The Millfield Classic is only 6 weeks away, and the stallion needs to be in peak condition, physically and behaviorally." "I understand," Lily assured him, though privately she thought the timeline aggressive. Thunder was still adjusting to his racing injury, not to mention the stress of changing hands and environments. Rushing him could lead to setbacks. Hopkins cleared his throat. "Your quarters are above the tack room," he said, pointing to a narrow staircase at the side of the barn. "It's basic but adequate. Meals are provided in the staff dining hall, adjacent to the main barn. Work begins at 5 a.m. and ends when the day's tasks are complete." He checked his watch. "Since it's already 8, I suggest you get settled quickly and begin familiarizing the stallion with our handling routines." With that, he turned on his heel and left, his back ramrod straight, every step deliberate. Lily watched him go, then turned back to Thunder with a sigh of relief. "Just you and me now, big guy," she murmured. "What have you been up to since yesterday, huh? Making trouble already?" Thunder snorted, pushing his nose against her shoulder. Lily laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet barn. She opened the stall door and stepped inside, noting the untouched feed bucket and the way Thunder positioned himself slightly off his injured leg. "Let's have a look at you," she said, running her hands gently down his legs, checking for heat or swelling. The injured leg felt slightly warm, not alarmingly so, but enough to warrant monitoring. "Been standing too long in the trailer, I bet. We'll walk it out, get you comfortable." For the next hour, Lily reacquainted herself with Thunder, checking every inch of him while speaking in the soft, steady voice that had always calmed him. The stallion gradually relaxed, lowering his head and releasing the tension in his powerful muscles. When she offered him fresh water and hay, he accepted both, a good sign that his stress was diminishing. The young groom, having finished cleaning the empty stall, approached cautiously. Wow, he said, eyes wide as he watched Thunder calmly accept Lily's ministrations. He tried to take my head off this morning. Lily smiled. He just needs to know he can trust you. I'm Lily, by the way. Miguel, the young man replied. I've been working here for about 6 months. Mr. Hopkins assigned me to help with the new arrivals. He gestured toward Thunder. Never seen a horse settle so fast with someone. You must have magic hands. No magic, Lily said. Just familiarity. I've known him since he was born. Miguel leaned against the stall door. Is it true you walked into the auction with no shoes and calmed him when no one else could get near him? Lily felt her cheeks redden. News travels fast. Everyone's talking about it, Miguel admitted. Some of the senior grooms are taking bets on how long you'll last here. The record for new staff is 3 weeks before Mr. Hopkins finds a reason to let them go. Well, I only need to last 6 weeks, Lily replied, though the information unsettled her. That's my contract. Miguel's expression suggested he wasn't convinced. Hopkins doesn't like outsiders, especially ones Mr. Crane brings in over his head. And he really doesn't like people who don't follow his systems. Before Lily could respond, the sound of footsteps announced someone's approach. Both she and Miguel turned to see Victor Crane himself walking toward them, his expensive riding boots clicking against the concrete floor. Unlike the previous day, he was dressed for riding in tailored breeches and a crisp white shirt. Miguel immediately straightened, his demeanor shifting from friendly to deferential. Good morning, Mr. Crane. Crane barely acknowledged the greeting, his cold eyes fixed on Lily and Thunder. I see you've arrived, Miss Morgan. How is my investment doing today? Lily stepped out of the stall, closing the door behind her. He's settling in, sir. No signs of serious stress from the transport, though his injured leg is a bit warm. Nothing concerning yet, but worth monitoring. Crane nodded, approaching the stall to inspect Thunder himself. The stallion's ears flattened slightly, but he didn't retreat or show aggression, a marked improvement from his behavior with the staff earlier. I want a full assessment by this afternoon, Crane instructed. Physical condition, temperament, training readiness. Hopkins will provide the standard forms. I expect detailed notes on his response to basic commands and any issues that might impact his preparation for Millfield. Yes, sir, Lily responded, though the taskmaster approach grated on her. Thunder needed time to acclimate, not immediate performance evaluations. Crane turned his attention fully to her, his gaze critical. And Miss Morgan, I see you've found appropriate footwear, but the rest of your attire is unsuitable. Miguel will show you where to collect your uniforms after lunch. I expect all my staff to represent Crane Manor professionally. With that, he strode away, leaving Lily to wonder what exactly she had gotten herself into. Thunder nickered softly from his stall, as if offering encouragement. She turned back to him with a small smile. Don't worry, she whispered. We'll figure this out together. The next few days passed in a blur of activity as Lily struggled to adapt to Crane Manor's rigorous routines. Each morning began at 4:30 a.m. when she would drag herself from the narrow cot in her sparse quarters above the isolation barn. By 5, she was expected to be fully dressed in her new uniform, the same navy polo and khaki pants that all Crane staff wore, and beginning Thunder's morning care. The uniform felt stiff and formal compared to her worn jeans and t-shirts, and the leather boots she'd been issued pinched her feet, which were accustomed to either bare earth or the minimal constraints of her old sneakers. But she kept any complaints to herself, focusing instead on the one bright spot in this strange new world: Thunder. The stallion was making progress, albeit slower than Crane or Hopkins would have liked. He was eating regularly now, accepting Lily's presence without hesitation, and gradually warming to Miguel, who had been assigned to assist her. You're the Thunder Whisperer, Miguel joked on the 3rd morning, as they worked together to clean the stallion's stall, while he grazed in a small paddock, visible through the barn doors. Hopkins checked his log sheets this morning and couldn't believe the stallion's behavior scores had improved so quickly. Lily smiled, shoveling soiled bedding into a wheelbarrow. He just needed someone familiar. He'll get used to everyone eventually. I don't know about that, Miguel replied, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. Jenny tried to bring him water yesterday when you were meeting with Hopkins, and he nearly kicked down the stall door. This concerned Lily. For Thunder to succeed at Crane Manor, and more importantly, for him to be treated well, he needed to accept handling from all the staff, not just her. "We'll work on that," she promised. "Maybe you can help me introduce him to the others gradually." Miguel nodded eagerly. "I'd like that. Most of the grooms are actually nice, once you get past the whole Crane Manor robot thing." He mimicked Hopkins' stiff posture and clipped speech, making Lily laugh despite her exhaustion. Their camaraderie was interrupted by the tap of approaching boots. Robert Hopkins appeared in the barn doorway, clipboard in hand, expression severe as always. "Morgan, the schedule indicates Thunder should be in the evaluation ring by now," he stated, consulting his ever-present clipboard. "You're 17 minutes behind." Lily straightened, wiping her hands on her pant legs. "Yes, sir. We're just finishing his stall. I wanted it fresh before his training session." Hopkins' mouth tightened. "At Crane Manor, we adhere to schedules. Stall cleaning is allocated from 6 GAU to 6:45 a.m. Training assessments begin at 7 sound sharp. It's now 7:17. "I understand," Lily said, trying to keep her tone respectful despite the frustration building inside her. Thunder's needs didn't operate according to a rigid timetable, especially while he was still adjusting. Sometimes he needed more time to eat, or his leg required extra attention, but explaining this to Hopkins seemed futile. "See that it doesn't happen again," Hopkins replied coldly. "Mr. Crane will be observing the morning session. I suggest you don't keep him waiting any longer." With that, he turned and left, his posture as unbending as his rules. Miguel gave Lily a sympathetic look. "Don't take it personally. He's like that with everybody." "Even you?" Lily asked, hurrying to finish the stall. "Especially me," Miguel admitted with a grin. "I'm probably the least Crane Manor-y person here. My dad knows Mr. Crane from some business thing years ago, so I got the job as a favor. Hopkins hates that." Understanding dawned. "Is that why you're stuck in the isolation barn with the new girl instead of in the main facility?" Miguel shrugged. "Probably. But hey, it works out for me. I'd rather be here than dealing with the show prima donnas in the main barn anyway." Together, they completed the stall in record time, then fetched Thunder from the paddock. The stallion came willingly to Lily's call, though he eyed Miguel with lingering suspicion. "Easy, boy," Lily murmured, running her hand down his sleek neck. "Miguel's a friend. We're going to work in the ring today." The evaluation ring was a smaller version of the main arena, designed specifically for assessing new acquisitions. Its sand footing was immaculately groomed, and viewing platforms lined one side for observers to evaluate the horse's movement and responsiveness. Lily's stomach tightened when she saw Victor Crane already seated in the center viewing box, Hopkins standing rigidly beside him. Several other staff members were positioned around the ring, clipboards ready to document Thunder's performance. "Quite the audience," she muttered to Miguel as they led Thunder through the gate. "Crane likes to personally evaluate all his major purchases during their first week," Miguel explained quietly. "Try not to look nervous. Horses can sense it." Lily nodded, taking a deep breath to center herself. Thunder, perhaps sensing her tension, tossed his head and snorted. "It's okay," she reassured him, stroking his cheek. "We're just going to show them what you can do." After securing Thunder to a waiting post, Lily prepared him for the session, checking his saddle fit and gently examining his previously injured leg. The warmth she'd noted earlier had subsided, a good sign that he was healing well. "Miss Morgan," Crane called from the viewing box, his voice carrying across the ring. "Today's assessment will focus on basic obedience and movement quality. Begin with a standard lunging pattern, then progress to mounted work if you feel the animal is ready." "Yes, sir," Lily replied, attaching a long lunge line to Thunder's halter. She moved to the center of the ring, allowing the stallion to circle her at increasing distances as she gave quiet commands. Thunder responded beautifully, transitioning smoothly between walk, trot, and canter. His movements were fluid, his attention focused entirely on Lily. From the corner of her eye, she could see Crane and Hopkins conferring, occasionally making notes. Other staff members watched with varying degrees of interest, some clearly impressed by the stallion's quality. After 20 minutes of groundwork, Lily signaled Thunder to halt and approach her. The stallion complied immediately, coming to stand beside her with his head lowered in relaxed attention. "Excellent control, Miss Morgan," Crane observed, his tone as close to approval as Lily had heard. "How do you assess his readiness for mounted work?" Lily considered carefully before answering. Physically, Thunder seemed sound, but rushing his training could reignite old anxieties. "I believe he's ready for light-mounted work, sir, but I'd recommend a graduated approach. Short sessions at first, focusing on building confidence." Crane frowned slightly. "The Millfield Classic is 5.5 weeks away. We don't have time for coddling." "With respect, Mr. Crane," Lily replied, summoning her courage. "Pushing him too fast could set us back further. His racing injury wasn't just physical, it affected his confidence. If we rebuild that properly now, he'll be more reliable in the show ring." A tense silence followed her statement. Hopkins's expression darkened at what he clearly perceived as insubordination, but Crane merely studied her thoughtfully. "Very well," he said finally. "You have 3 days to demonstrate progress with your graduated approach. If I don't see significant improvement by Friday's assessment, we'll accelerate the training schedule." Lily nodded, relief washing through her. "Thank you, sir." "Now, show me his response to mounting," Crane instructed. "I want to see his temperament with a rider." This was the moment Lily had been both anticipating and dreading. Thunder had always been sensitive about being mounted, even before his injury. The wrong approach could trigger resistance or even dangerous behavior. She removed the lunge line and led Thunder to the mounting block positioned at the side of the ring. Miguel stood nearby, ready to assist if needed. "Easy, boy," she murmured, checking the saddle girth one last time. "You remember this part." With slow, deliberate movements, Lily placed her foot in the stirrup and gradually transferred her weight, pausing halfway to gauge Thunder's reaction. The stallion remained steady, ears flicking back to track her movement, but showing no signs of alarm. Taking a deep breath, Lily committed fully to the mount, swinging her leg over and settling gently into the saddle. Thunder tensed momentarily, then relaxed as she ran a reassuring hand along his neck. "Good boy," she praised softly. "See? Nothing to worry about." She signaled him to walk forward, keeping the reins loose and her seat light. Thunder responded willingly, his ears now pricked forward with interest, rather than pinned back in resistance. They circled the ring once at a walk, then twice more with increasing confidence. When she felt him fully settled, Lily asked for a trot. Thunder transitioned smoothly, his gait even and controlled despite the lingering effects of his injury. The observers in the viewing area leaned forward, clearly impressed by the stallion's movement quality. After a few minutes of trotting, Lily brought Thunder back to a walk and then to a halt directly in front of the viewing box. "That's enough for his first mounted session," she announced. "I'd like to end on this positive note." Crane studied them thoughtfully. "The stallion moves well," he acknowledged. "Better than the auction videos suggested." He turned to Hopkins. "Adjust his schedule to include daily mounted work, following Miss Morgan's graduated approach, for now." Hopkins' lips thinned with displeasure, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." As Lily dismounted and prepared to lead Thunder back to the barn, she caught sight of several grooms watching from the fence. Their expressions had shifted from skepticism to something approaching respect. Even Jenny, who Thunder had nearly kicked the day before, offered a small smile of acknowledgement. "Nice work, Thunder Whisperer," Miguel murmured as he joined her. "You've got the Ice King impressed." "Crane or Hopkins?" Lily asked wryly. "Both, maybe. That's practically unheard of." Thunder nudged Lily's shoulder gently, as if sharing in their quiet moment of triumph. She stroked his nose, silently promising him that they would get through this strange new chapter together. Later that afternoon, As she was reviewing Thunder's training notes in the small office adjacent to the isolation barn, Hopkins appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Crane would like to see you in the main house," he announced, his tone revealing nothing about the purpose of the summons. Lily set down her pen, anxiety twisting in her stomach. "Now?" "Immediately," Hopkins confirmed. "I'll escort you." As she followed him across the immaculate grounds toward the imposing main house, Lily wondered what Crane wanted. Had she overstepped by challenging his training approach? Was he reconsidering her position already? Thunder's whinny echoed from the isolation barn, as if sending encouragement. Lily squared her shoulders and continued forward, ready to defend her methods if necessary. For Thunder's sake, she would stand her ground, even against Victor Crane himself. The main house of Crane Manor was even more intimidating up close. Its stone facade rose 3 stories high, with floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the afternoon sunlight like sheets of gold. Perfectly trimmed hedges lined the cobblestone pathway to the front entrance, where massive wooden doors stood beneath an elaborate stone archway. It was less a home than a monument to wealth and power, exactly the statement Victor Crane intended to make. Hopkins led Lily through a side entrance, clearly meant for staff rather than guests. She followed him across gleaming marble floors, past priceless artwork and antique furniture, feeling increasingly out of place in her dusty uniform. Stable dirt clung to her boots despite her attempts to clean them before entering, and she was acutely aware of the horsehair that inevitably adhered to her clothes after a day's work. They arrived at a set of double doors, which Hopkins opened without knocking. Beyond lay what appeared to be a private study, walls lined with leather-bound books, a massive desk of polished mahogany, and tall windows overlooking the estate's main pastures. Victor Crane stood with his back to them, gazing out at his domain. Without turning, he spoke. "Thank you, Hopkins. That will be all." The stable manager gave a stiff nod, cast one last unreadable glance at Lily, and departed, closing the doors behind him. The soft click seemed to echo in the cavernous room. "Miss Morgan," Crane said, finally turning to face her. "I trust Thunder is settled in his stall after this morning's session?" "Yes, sir," Lily replied, resisting the urge to fidget under his cool appraisal. "Miguel is monitoring him while I'm away." Crane gestured to a chair positioned in front of his desk. "Please, sit." Lily perched awkwardly on the edge of the seat, hyper-aware of her surroundings. The chair alone probably cost more than everything her family owned. Crane took his own seat behind the desk, steepling his fingers as he studied her. "I have reviewed the footage of this morning's assessment," he said. "The stallion performs better than expected, given his recent injury and change of environment." "Thunder is resilient," Lily responded, "and intelligent. He adapts quickly when he feels secure." "Indeed." Crane's expression remained impassive. "Dr. Evans spoke highly of your connection with the animal. It appears her assessment was accurate." Lily wasn't sure how to respond. Was this praise? From Victor Crane? "Thank you, sir. However," he continued, "I remain concerned about the timeline. The Millfield Classic is not merely another showing. It is the premier event of the season, attended by the most discerning buyers from around the world. Thunder will be the centerpiece of my exhibition, demonstrating both his conformation excellence and his training quality." "I understand the importance," Lily assured him, "and I believe Thunder can be ready. He just needs the right approach." "Your approach," Crane clarified, one eyebrow raised slightly. Lily felt a flush creep up her neck. "I didn't mean to overstep this morning. It's just that I've known Thunder since he was born. I understand his temperament." For the first time, a flicker of genuine interest crossed Crane's face. "Tell me about that. How exactly did you come to be so familiar with a champion thoroughbred? Your background is modest, from what I understand." The implied judgment stung, but Lily kept her expression neutral. "My father is Will Morgan. He bred and trained horses before his accident 2 years ago. Our farm was small but respected. Mr. Richardson, Thunder's original owner, was a client and friend. I helped deliver Thunder and assisted with his early training. Will Morgan, Crane repeated thoughtfully. I recall the name. He produced several notable jumpers in the regional circuit. Yes, sir. Thunder's Dam was one of our best broodmares. Crane leaned back in his chair. And what happened? The question caught Lily off guard. She hadn't expected Crane to show interest in her family's troubles. My father fell from a young horse he was training, she explained reluctantly. Shattered 3 vertebrae. The medical bills. She trailed off, unwilling to detail their financial collapse to this man who had never known want. But Crane seemed to understand. And so the mighty fall, he murmured. This industry can be unforgiving. We haven't fallen, Lily corrected, a spark of pride overriding her caution. We've stumbled. There's a difference. To her surprise, Crane's mouth quirked in what might have been a smile. Indeed there is, Miss Morgan. He studied her for a moment longer, then abruptly changed the subject. I've decided to expand your role here. Sir, Thunder's training for Millfield remains your primary responsibility, he explained. But I want you to oversee his entire preparation, not just the handling and riding, but his grooming, diet, health regimen, everything. Hopkins will continue to supervise administratively, but you will make the day-to-day decisions regarding the stallion's care. Lily blinked in surprise. That's a significant responsibility. It is, Crane agreed, and one I do not offer lightly. However, this morning's session demonstrated that your instincts about the animal are sound. I am, above all, a pragmatist. I want Thunder in peak condition for Millfield, and you appear to be the most efficient means to that end. Confusion warred with pride in Lily's mind. On one hand, this was a vote of confidence she hadn't expected from Crane. On the other, the expanded role meant deeper involvement in an operation whose values often clashed with her own. What about after Millfield? She asked cautiously. My contract is for 6 weeks. Crane's expression returned to its usual impassivity. Let us focus on the immediate goal. If Thunder performs well at Millfield, we can discuss longer-term arrangements. Lily nodded, understanding that this was the closest thing to an opportunity she would receive. More responsibility meant more influence over Thunder's care, and perhaps more ability to ensure he was treated ethically, even after her contract ended. I accept, she said firmly. Thank you for the opportunity. Don't thank me yet, Crane replied. With greater authority comes greater accountability. If Thunder fails to meet expectations at Millfield, the responsibility will be yours. The implied threat hung in the air between them, but Lily refused to be intimidated. He won't fail. Crane studied her for a moment, then nodded once. Hopkins will adjust the staffing schedules accordingly. You'll have Miguel and 2 additional grooms assigned to your team. I expect daily progress reports, and I will personally observe training sessions twice weekly. Understood. Rising from his chair, Crane signaled that the meeting was concluded. But as Lily stood to leave, he added, One more thing, Miss Morgan. While your duties now include greater autonomy, do not mistake my pragmatism for sentimentality. Thunder is a valuable investment, and I expect returns on that investment. Your attachment to the animal is irrelevant to our professional arrangement. This coldly delivered reminder stung, but Lily maintained her composure. I understand completely, Mr. Crane. Thunder's value as an investment is precisely why I'll ensure he reaches his full potential. For a fleeting moment, Lily thought she saw something like respect flicker in Crane's eyes. But it vanished so quickly, she might have imagined it. Good day, Miss Morgan, he said dismissively, turning back to the window. As Lily left the imposing manor house, her mind raced with the implications of this new development. Expanded responsibility meant longer hours, more scrutiny, and higher stakes. But it also meant protection for Thunder, the ability to prevent the overtraining and harsh handling that sometimes occurred with valuable show horses. She thought of her father, who had always taught her that proper horsemanship was about partnership, not domination. He would understand why she had accepted Crane's offer, even knowing the pressure it would bring. The sun was beginning to lower in the sky as Lily made her way back to the isolation barn. Inside, Miguel was checking Thunder's water bucket, while the stallion munched contentedly on premium Timothy hay. "So?" Miguel asked, curiosity evident in his expression. "What did the big boss want? Are you fired already?" Lily shook her head, still processing the unexpected turn of events. "Not fired. Promoted, I think." Miguel's eyebrows shot up. "Promoted? After 3 days? That never happens." "He's put me in charge of Thunder's entire preparation for Millfield," she explained, stroking the stallion's nose as he raised his head to greet her. "Full responsibility." "Wow," Miguel breathed. "Hopkins must be having an aneurysm." Lily winced, realizing the stable manager would indeed view this as an undermining of his authority. "I guess I'm not making friends in high places." "Who needs friends in high places when you've got friends in the right places?" Miguel grinned, gesturing toward Thunder, who had rested his head companionably on Lily's shoulder. Lily smiled, the weight of the day's events temporarily lifting. "You're right about that." She looked into Thunder's intelligent eyes, finding reassurance in their depth. "We've got this, don't we, boy?" The stallion nickered softly, as if in agreement. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Crane's expectations, Hopkins' resentment, the pressure of Millfield, they would face them together. For today, that was enough. The news of Lily's promotion spread through Crane Manor like wildfire. By breakfast the following morning, every groom, trainer, and stable hand knew that the barefoot girl from the auction had been given unprecedented authority over Crane's most valuable new acquisition. Reactions varied from grudging respect to outright resentment, with Hopkins making no effort to hide which camp he belonged in. "These are your team members," he announced coldly during the morning staff meeting, introducing Lily to the 2 additional grooms assigned to her: Jenny, the young woman Thunder had nearly kicked earlier, and Marcus, a taciturn older man with weathered hands and evaluating eyes. "They will report directly to you regarding Thunder's care, but remember that all of you report to me." The emphasis on the chain of command was impossible to miss. Hopkins might have been overruled by Crane, but he remained determined to assert what authority he still possessed. "Thank you, Mr. Hopkins," Lily replied evenly. "I look forward to working with everyone." Hopkins consulted his clipboard. "I've revised the isolation barn schedule to accommodate the new arrangement. You'll find it posted in the office. Mr. Crane expects his first progress update by end of day." With that, he turned and strode away, his rigid posture radiating disapproval. Jenny, a petite blonde with an anxious expression, shifted uncomfortably. "He's really not happy about this," she whispered once Hopkins was out of earshot. "Understatement of the year," Miguel muttered beside her. Marcus simply studied Lily, his grizzled face impassive. "You know what you're doing with that stallion?" he asked finally, his voice gravelly from years of stable dust. Lily met his gaze directly. "Yes, but I'll welcome your experience and input. I understand you've been with Crane Manor for 15 years. A flicker of surprise crossed Marcus's face. He nodded once. "Worked with some difficult horses in my time. Never seen one respond like that stallion does to you, though." It wasn't quite approval, but it wasn't rejection either. Lily would take it. "Let's get started," she said, leading the small team toward the isolation barn. "I want to review Thunder's complete health records before his morning exercise." The next several days fell into a demanding but productive rhythm. Each morning began with a detailed assessment of Thunder's condition, checking his injured leg for heat or swelling, evaluating his appetite and energy levels, noting any changes in temperament. Under Lily's guidance, the team established a consistent handling protocol that helped the stallion adjust to their presence. Jenny, despite her initial nervousness, proved to have a gentle touch that Thunder gradually accepted. Miguel's natural affinity with horses served him well, and he quickly became Lily's most trusted assistant. Even Marcus, initially standoffish, began offering valuable suggestions based on his years of experience. "He favors that left hind more in the afternoon," the older groom observed on the 3rd day, as they watched Thunder trot around the evaluation ring. "Might want to ice it after work, not just in the morning." Lily nodded, impressed by his attention to detail. Good catch. We'll add that to the routine. Thunder's training progressed steadily, with each day building incrementally on the previous day's achievements. Lily kept the mounted sessions short but focused, alternating between basic dressage patterns to improve his balance and light jumping exercises to rebuild his confidence. The stallion responded beautifully, his natural athleticism shining through as his trust in Lily deepened. Even more encouraging was his gradual acceptance of other riders. By the end of the first week under the new arrangement, both Miguel and Marcus had successfully mounted Thunder without incident, a significant milestone that Lily proudly documented in her daily reports to Crane. Not everyone at the manor was pleased with their progress, however. Hopkins observed their sessions with increasing frequency, his clipboard a constant presence as he noted every deviation from standard Crane Manor protocols. His interactions with Lily remained coldly professional, but the tension between them was palpable. The situation came to a head during Thunder's Friday evaluation session, which Victor Crane attended in person. The stallion was performing exceptionally well, executing a complex dressage pattern with Lily in the saddle, when Hopkins approached the ring with a substitution request. "Mr. Crane believes we should assess the horse's response to a professional rider at this stage," he announced. "Colton will take over for the remainder of today's session." Colton Sanders was Crane Manor's head trainer, a decorated show rider with a reputation for producing winners and for his aggressive training methods. Lily had seen him working with other horses in the main arena. His approach focused on immediate results rather than building trust. "Thunder isn't ready for a rider swap mid-session," Lily objected, bringing the stallion to a halt near the fence where Hopkins stood. "It would undermine the consistency we've been building." Hopkins's expression hardened. "This isn't a request, Miss Morgan. It's a directive from Mr. Crane himself." Lily glanced toward the viewing area where Crane sat watching, his face unreadable. Colton already stood at the gate, riding crop in hand, waiting to enter. Her heart sank. This was a test, not just of Thunder's progress, but of her willingness to follow orders even when they conflicted with her judgment. If she refused, she risked her position and, by extension, her ability to protect Thunder in the long term. If she complied, she risked undoing the careful groundwork they'd laid. "I understand," she said finally, "but I recommend a proper introduction first. Let me bring Thunder to the mounting block and remain with him while Colton mounts. It will ease the transition." Hopkins consulted briefly with Crane, who gave a curt nod of approval. "Proceed," Hopkins instructed, though his tone suggested he'd hoped for her outright refusal. Lily guided Thunder to the mounting area, speaking softly to him as Colton approached. The stallion's ears flicked nervously, sensing the change in routine. "Easy, boy," she murmured. "It's okay. I'm right here." Colton reached them, his expensive riding boots gleaming in the morning sun. He was handsome in a conventional way, with perfectly styled hair and the confident posture of someone accustomed to success. "So this is the famous Thunder's hope," he said, eyeing the stallion with professional assessment rather than genuine interest. "Impressive confirmation, but I hear he's got attitude problems." "He responds to respect and consistency," Lily replied, trying to keep the defensive edge from her voice. "He's sensitive to handling changes, so please be gentle with your aids, especially on his left side. He's still building confidence after his injury." Colton's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I've ridden national champions with far worse issues than a little sensitivity, Miss Morgan. I'm sure we'll get along fine." He reached for Thunder's reins. The stallion immediately tensed, backing away several steps with his ears pinned flat against his head. Colton frowned, reaching for him more assertively. "Don't force it," Lily cautioned. "Let me settle him first." Ignoring her advice, Colton stepped forward and grabbed the reins firmly. "He needs to learn who's in charge." Thunder's reaction was instantaneous. He reared up, pulling away from Colton's grip with a force that nearly yanked the man off his feet. Several observers gasped as the stallion spun around, eyes wide with alarm. "Thunder," Lily called firmly but calmly. "Whoa, boy." The stallion halted his retreat at the sound of her voice, though he remained visibly agitated. Colton recovered his balance, his face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "That horse is dangerous," he declared loudly. "Completely untrained." From the viewing area, Crane rose to his feet. "Miss Morgan," he called, "control your animal." Lily approached Thunder carefully, her movements deliberate and non-threatening. "It's all right," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "You're okay." The stallion allowed her to take hold of his halter, his breathing rapid but gradually slowing as she stroked his neck. She felt every eye in the arena upon them. Crane's calculating gaze, Hopkins's vindicated glare, Colton's wounded pride. "I apologize for the disruption," she said, addressing Crane directly. "Thunder isn't ready for an abrupt handler change. We need to introduce new riders more gradually." Crane considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Colton, we'll reschedule your assessment for next week. Miss Morgan will prepare the horse accordingly." Relief flooded through Lily, but it was short-lived. Hopkins immediately stepped forward, clipboard at the ready. "Sir, this incident demonstrates the flaws in Miss Morgan's approach," he argued. "The stallion should be responding to all handlers equally by now. Her methods are clearly creating dependency rather than proper training." "And yet," Crane replied coolly, "the animal has shown more progress in 1 week than many of our acquisitions show in a month." He turned to Lily. "Continue your session, Miss Morgan. I expect a full report on this incident with your plan for addressing the stallion's handler selectivity by end of day." As Crane departed, Hopkins remained by the fence, his expression thunderous. Colton, clearly dismissive of both Lily and Thunder, stalked away toward the main barn. "Well, that went well," Miguel muttered, approaching to help with Thunder now that the immediate crisis had passed. Lily exhaled slowly, the tension of the confrontation slowly ebbing from her muscles. "Could have been worse." "Hopkins won't let this go," Miguel warned. "He'll be watching for any mistake now." Lily nodded, all too aware of the precarious position she occupied. "Then we won't make mistakes. Thunder's progress is our best defense." The remainder of the day passed in a blur of activity. Lily completed Thunder's training session, focusing on reinforcing the trust and confidence that had been shaken by the morning's events. Then came the daily grooming routine, health checks, and the meticulous record-keeping that Crane demanded. By evening, she was exhausted but satisfied with their recovery from the setback. Thunder was calm again, accepting treats from Miguel and even allowing Jenny to check his legs without protest. The rapport within their small team had strengthened, united by their shared purpose and the growing affection for the spirited stallion in their care. As twilight descended over Crane Manor, Lily retreated to the isolation barn office to complete her report. The small room felt airless despite the open window, and her uniform clung uncomfortably to her skin in the lingering summer heat. Still, she worked diligently, detailing the morning's incident and outlining a phased approach for introducing Thunder to additional riders. A soft knock at the door interrupted her concentration. She looked up to find Dr. Catherine Evans standing in the doorway, medical bag in hand. "Dr. Evans," Lily greeted her, surprised. "I didn't know you were visiting today." The veterinarian smiled warmly. "Victor asked me to check on Thunder after hearing about this morning's excitement. Thought I'd stop by and see how you're settling in at Crane Manor." "It's been educational," Lily replied diplomatically. Dr. Evans chuckled. "I can imagine. Hopkins running you through the ringer?" "You could say that. Don't take it personally. Robert's entire identity is wrapped up in the Crane Manor system he's built. Any deviation feels like a personal attack." The vet set down her bag and took the chair opposite Lily's desk. "I hear Thunder's doing well overall, though. Responding to training, eating well, that injury healing nicely." Lily nodded, grateful for the veterinarian's friendly presence after a day of tension. "He's making good progress. We had a setback today with the attempted rider change, but nothing we can't overcome with proper preparation." "I'm not surprised," Dr. Evans said thoughtfully. "Thor, that's what you call him, isn't it?" "Thunder," Lily corrected. The vet tilted her head. "Interesting. Victor's paperwork lists him as Thor's Symphony. Lily frowned in confusion. That can't be right. He's registered as Thunder's Hope, named after his dam, Whisper of Hope. Dr. Evans pulled out her tablet and tapped through several screens. Here's the registration information Victor provided when he transferred ownership. Thor's Symphony, sired by Royal Tempest out of Majestic Harmony. A cold feeling settled in Lily's stomach. That's not Thunder. Thunder was sired by Silent Storm out of Whisper of Hope, Mr. Richardson's mare. Dr. Evans studied her with sudden intensity. You're certain? Absolutely. I was there when he was born. I helped register him. Lily's mind raced. Can I see those papers? The veterinarian hesitated, then turned her tablet so Lily could view the screen. There it was. A complete registration for Thor's Symphony, with bloodlines, racing record, and health history that matched Thunder's in timing but not in detail. The listed breeder wasn't Bill Richardson, but a large commercial operation in Kentucky. This is wrong, Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. These aren't Thunder's papers. Dr. Evans took back the tablet, her expression troubled. I think we need to have a conversation with Victor Crane. Lily stared at the tablet screen, her mind racing to make sense of the discrepancy. This wasn't a simple clerical error. Someone had deliberately created false documentation for Thunder. But why? I need to understand what's happening here, she said, looking up at Dr. Evans. Thunder is Thunder's Hope. I've known him since birth. The veterinarian's expression was grave. If what you're saying is true, we have a serious situation. Falsifying registration documents for show horses is fraud, and it carries significant penalties in the industry. Could it be a mistake? Lily asked, though she already knew the answer. The detailed nature of the false documentation, complete with fabricated lineage and altered performance history, spoke to deliberate deception rather than error. Dr. Evans shook her head. Not likely. The question is whether Victor knows. A knot formed in Lily's stomach. Of course Crane knew. A man who scrutinized every aspect of his horse acquisitions wouldn't miss something as fundamental as falsified papers, which meant he had purchased Thunder knowing the documentation was fraudulent, or worse, had created the false identity himself. What do we do? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Evans sighed. That depends on what you want to accomplish. If your goal is to expose potential fraud, we could contact the registration authorities. But, she trailed off, the implications clear. But I'd lose my position, Lily finished, and Thunder would still belong to Crane. Exactly, and Victor doesn't respond well to threats or exposure. If this is deliberate, which I suspect it is, he would have contingency plans. Lily's thoughts turned to her family's precarious financial situation, to the mortgage payment her first week's salary had helped cover. She thought of Thunder, who was finally settling into a routine with people who cared for his well-being. Blowing the whistle might satisfy justice, but at what cost? I need more information before deciding anything, she said finally. Maybe there's an explanation we're missing. Dr. Evans nodded, a hint of approval in her eyes. Wise. Gather facts first, then determine your course of action. She closed the tablet and returned it to her bag. I'll conduct Thunder's examination as scheduled and keep this between us for now. But Lily, be careful. Victor Crane didn't build his empire by being careless or forgiving. After the veterinarian left to check on Thunder, Lily remained at the desk, her report forgotten as she grappled with the implications of what she'd discovered. The most likely explanation was that Crane had purchased Thunder knowing his identity was falsified, perhaps to enhance his value for showing or breeding purposes. Thor's Symphony's bloodlines, as listed on the registration, were more prestigious than Thunder's hopes, which would explain the inflated price at auction and Crane's eagerness to show him at Millfield. But who had created the false identity initially? Richardson, Thunder's original owner, the racing stable that had purchased him? Or had Crane himself orchestrated the deception? Lily needed answers, but she would have to tread carefully. Direct confrontation was too risky. She needed leverage first, evidence that would protect both her position and Thunder's welfare. With renewed determination, she returned to her report, adding nothing about her discovery. She would play along for now, doing her job as expected while quietly investigating further. Tonight, once everyone had left for the day, she would see what information she could find in the isolation barn's records. Hours later, after Dr. Evans had completed her examination, pronouncing Thunder in excellent health, and the evening stable duties were finished, Lily found herself alone in the office. Miguel had offered to stay and help with her search, but she'd sent him home, not wanting to implicate him if she was caught accessing files she shouldn't. The isolation barn kept paper records for all new acquisitions, preliminary documentation before the information was transferred to Crane Manor's main database. Thunder's file would contain his purchase papers, transportation documents, and perhaps correspondence that might shed light on the identity switch. Lily rifled through the file cabinet, locating Thunder's folder easily enough. Inside were the expected documents: auction receipt, transportation record, initial health assessment. Nothing in the paperwork mentioned Thunder's hope. Everything referred to Thor's symphony. It was as if Thunder's true identity had been completely erased. She was about to close the file when she noticed a small notation on the transportation document. Previous Regular documents retained by J.H. James Harrison, the silver-haired breeder who had shown such interest in Thunder at the auction. And in Lily herself. Could Harrison be involved in the fraud? He had been the one to suggest Lily work for Crane, even arranging the introduction with Dr. Evans. Now that she thought about it, the whole scenario seemed too convenient. The timing of his appearance at the auction, his knowledge of her connection to Thunder, his influence with Crane. Lily's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. Quickly, she returned the file to its drawer and closed the cabinet, grabbing her report from the desk, just as Hopkins appeared in the doorway. "Working late, Miss Morgan?" he asked, suspicion evident in his tone. "Just finishing my report for Mr. Crane," she replied, holding up the folder as evidence. Dr. Evans' examination took longer than expected. Hopkins's eyes narrowed slightly. "I'll take that to Mr. Crane. He's still in the main house, reviewing tomorrow's schedules." Lily hesitated, reluctant to hand over the report and lose her excuse for being in the office after hours. But refusing would only heighten Hopkins' suspicions. "Thank you," she said, passing him the folder. "Please let Mr. Crane know that Thunder's health was fully cleared by Dr. Evans. His injured leg shows significant improvement." Hopkins took the report without comment, his gaze sweeping the office as if looking for evidence of misconduct. Finding nothing obviously amiss, he gave a curt nod. "The isolation barn is now closed for the evening. You should return to your quarters." "Of course. Good night, Mr. Hopkins." Once the stable manager had departed, Lily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her quest for answers would have to wait for another opportunity. For now, she needed to process what little information she had gleaned. Harrison's involvement changed her calculation. If he possessed Thunder's original registration documents, he might be leverage against Crane, or he might be complicit in whatever scheme was unfolding. Either way, she needed to speak with him directly. Early the next morning, before the rest of the team arrived, Lily used the office phone to make a call. James Harrison's assistant answered, initially reluctant to disturb her employer for an unscheduled conversation with a stable hand. But when Lily mentioned Thunder's hope, the woman's tone changed. "One moment, please. I'll see if Mr. Harrison is available." After a brief wait, Harrison himself came on the line. "Miss Morgan, this is unexpected." "I apologize for calling without notice, Mr. Harrison," Lily said, keeping her voice low to avoid being overheard. "But I need to speak with you about Thunder, about his registration documents." A long pause followed. "I see," Harrison finally responded, his tone careful. "This isn't a conversation for the telephone. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? I could stop by Crane Manor on other business." "Yes, I can make time." "Good. I'll arrange it with Victor. Until then, Miss Morgan, I suggest discretion." The line went dead before Lily could reply. She replaced the receiver slowly, more certain than ever that Harrison knew exactly what was happening with Thunder's documentation. The rest of the day passed in a blur of normal duties, though Lily found it increasingly difficult to maintain her usual focus. Every interaction with Crane's staff now carried an undercurrent of suspicion. Who else knew about Thunder's false identity? Was she the only one in the dark? By evening, Lily was mentally exhausted from maintaining her routine while questions churned inside her. She had just finished Thunder's last feeding of the day when she heard a car approaching the isolation barn, unusual for that hour. Through the open barn doors, she recognized the sleek black luxury vehicle that pulled up outside. Victor Crane had paid few visits to the isolation barn since Thunder's arrival, preferring to observe training sessions in the main arenas. The car door opened and Crane emerged, his expression inscrutable as always. He was dressed in evening attire, clearly on his way to some social engagement, but had detoured to the barn first. "Miss Morgan," he called, not bothering to enter the dusty structure in his pristine suit. "A word, please." Lily patted Thunder's neck reassuringly before stepping out to meet her employer. The evening air felt cooler after the warmth of the barn, but her apprehension had nothing to do with the temperature. "Mr. Crane," she acknowledged. "Is everything all right?" "I understand James Harrison will be visiting tomorrow," Crane said without preamble. "He mentioned you requested a meeting." Lily swallowed. "Yes, sir. I wanted his perspective on Thunder's preparation for Millfield, given his experience with showing at that level." Crane studied her face carefully, his eyes catching the fading sunlight. "Is that all?" "Should there be more?" Lily countered, keeping her expression neutral. A tense silence stretched between them. Finally, Crane's mouth curved in what might generously be called a smile. "Harrison is an excellent resource. I'm sure his insights will prove valuable." Relief washed through Lily. He was accepting her explanation, at least for now. "Speaking of Millfield," Crane continued, "I've scheduled a strategy meeting for Monday morning. We'll review Thunder's progress and finalize the showing plan. 3 weeks remain until the Classic, and I want to ensure we're on track." "We're making excellent progress," Lily assured him. "Thunder's confidence improves daily, and his movements are sharper each session." "Good. I've invested considerably in that animal. I expect returns commensurate with that investment." As always, Crane's reduction of Thunder to a financial calculation grated on Lily. But now, knowing what she did about the identity fraud, his words carried additional weight. Just how far would Victor Crane go for those returns? "I understand, sir," she replied evenly. "We won't disappoint you." Crane gave her one last assessing look before returning to his car. "See that you don't, Miss Morgan. Good evening." As the luxury vehicle pulled away, Lily stood in the gathering darkness, a single question echoing in her mind. What had she gotten herself into? Behind her, Thunder nickered softly, as if sensing her distress. She turned back to the barn, finding comfort in the stallion's steady presence. Whatever complications surrounded his identity, he remained the same horse she had known since birth, strong, intelligent, and depending on her now more than ever. "We'll figure this out," she promised him, stroking his sleek neck. Together. Sleep proved elusive that night. Lily tossed on her narrow cot above the tack room, scenarios playing through her mind like a film reel stuck on repeat. By dawn, she had resolved to hear Harrison out before taking any action. If he held Thunder's original documents, he might be able to right whatever wrong had occurred, or at least explain it. The morning passed with agonizing slowness. Lily went through Thunder's usual routine mechanically, her thoughts elsewhere. Miguel noticed her distraction but didn't pry, simply picking up the slack when her attention wandered. Shortly after noon, a familiar silver-haired figure appeared at the isolation barn entrance. James Harrison, impeccably dressed as always, nodded in greeting. "Miss Morgan," he said, "I believe we have matters to discuss." Lily led James Harrison to the small paddock behind the isolation barn where they could speak privately. Thunder grazed contentedly nearby, occasionally lifting his head to observe them with intelligent eyes. The morning's training session had gone well, leaving the stallion relaxed and satisfied. "He looks good," Harrison commented, leaning against the fence. "You've done remarkable work in a short time." "Thank you," Lily replied. "But I think we both know I didn't ask you here to discuss Thunder's training progress." Harrison's expression grew serious. "No, I suppose not." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a folded document. "I believe this is what you're looking for." Lily accepted the paper with steady hands, though her heart raced. Unfolding it, she found herself looking at Thunder's original registration certificate, the real one, naming him as Thunder's Hope, sired by Silent Storm out of Whisper of Hope. Bill Richardson was listed as breeder of record, and the document bore all the official stamps and signatures required for authenticity. "You've had this all along," she said, unable to keep the accusation from her voice. "You knew Thunder's documentation was falsified, and you said nothing." Harrison sighed. "It's not that simple, Lily. I've been trying to set things right, but it's a complicated situation." "Then uncomplicate it for me," she challenged. "Why does Victor Crane have my father's horse registered under a false identity? And why did you help me get hired if you were part of the deception?" "I'm not part of the deception," Harrison clarified. "I'm trying to expose it. That's why I wanted you here at Crane Manor, not just for Thunder's sake, but to help uncover what's been happening." Lily frowned, trying to reconcile his words with the evidence before her. "Start from the beginning, please." Harrison's gaze drifted to Thunder grazing peacefully in the paddock. "It began about 3 years ago. Victor Crane and a few other high-end traders started acquiring promising young horses with good, but not exceptional bloodlines. Months later, these same horses would appear at shows with altered documentation, claiming more prestigious lineages. "That's fraud," Lily stated flatly. "Yes, it is," Harrison agreed. "But it's difficult to prove without the original documentation, which has a way of disappearing. The Equestrian Federation has been investigating, but they need concrete evidence. When I saw Thunder at the auction and recognized him from his early days at Richardson's farm, I knew immediately what was happening." "So you kept his original papers," Lily concluded, understanding dawning. "As evidence?" Harrison nodded. "Bill Richardson was an old friend. When he died 6 months ago, his widow gave me Thunder's original documentation for safekeeping. She was suspicious about how the horse had been sold to Westlake Stables, and with good reason it seems." "Thunder was sold legitimately," Lily pointed out. "My father was there for the transaction. The initial sale, yes, but after Thunder's racing injury, something changed. The paperwork was altered, and suddenly Thor's Symphony appeared on the circuit with the same markings, same injury history, but a much more valuable bloodline." Lily's mind reeled. "So Westlake was in on it too?" "Possibly," Harrison conceded. "Or they were deceived as well. The fraud could have occurred at any point in the chain of ownership after Richardson. What we do know is that Victor Crane purchased Thor's Symphony at the auction, not Thunder's Hope, at least according to the official record." "But why risk it?" Lily asked. "Crane has money. He could buy any horse he wanted with legitimate papers." Harrison's expression hardened. "This isn't about the purchase price. It's about breeding fees and future sales. A stallion with Thor's Symphony's purported bloodlines could command stud fees triple what Thunder's Hope would earn, and any offspring would be more valuable as well." The magnitude of the deception stunned Lily. This wasn't a one-time fraud. It was an ongoing scheme that could generate hundreds of thousands in illicit profits over Thunder's lifetime. "Does Crane know you have the original documents?" she asked. "I don't believe so," Harrison replied. "He knows I've been supporting the Federation's investigation, but not that I have specific evidence regarding Thunder." Lily glanced down at the paper in her hands. "This is enough to expose him, isn't it?" "It's a start," Harrison said cautiously. "But Crane is powerful and well-connected. He'd claim he was deceived by the previous owner, or that the documents were fabricated after the fact. We need more, like proof that he knowingly presented false documentation for showing purposes." Understanding dawned on Lily with chilling clarity. "Millfield. He's entering Thunder as Thor's Symphony at the Millfield Classic. That would be documented fraud." Harrison nodded gravely. Exactly. If we can prove Crane submitted falsified registration for Millfield, the case becomes much stronger. So that's why you helped me get this position, Lily concluded. You needed someone on the inside who could access the entry documentation. Partly, Harrison admitted, but I also genuinely believed you were the best person to care for Thunder. Your connection with him was evident at the auction. Two purposes served at once. Lily wasn't sure whether to feel used or vindicated. On one hand, Harrison had manipulated her into a position that served his investigation. On the other, he had given her the opportunity to protect Thunder during a vulnerable transition. What happens to Thunder if Crane is exposed? She asked, the question that concerned her most. He still legally owns him, fraud or not. That's complicated, Harrison acknowledged. The courts would have to determine ownership based on the chain of sales. If Crane's purchase is deemed fraudulent, ownership could revert to the previous legitimate owner. Which would be Richardson's estate, Lily said, hope flaring briefly. Potentially. Or Westlake Stables, depending on where in the chain the fraud began. Harrison studied her face carefully. You're worried about what happens to the horse. Of course I am, Lily replied fiercely. I didn't come here just to expose Crane. I came to protect Thunder. Harrison smiled slightly. Which is precisely why I trusted you with this. Your priorities are clear. Lily folded the registration document and handed it back to Harrison. So what now? Millfield is less than 3 weeks away. Now we gather evidence of Crane's intent to enter the horse fraudulently, Harrison explained, returning the paper to his jacket. Entry forms, registration confirmation, catalog listings, anything that shows he's presenting Thunder as Thor's symphony at the show. And how do I get that without raising suspicion? Lily asked. Hopkins already watches my every move. You focus on preparing Thunder for the show, Harrison instructed. Continue as if nothing has changed. I have other resources at Crane Manor who can help with the documentation. The revelation that Harrison had additional allies within the estate was surprising but reassuring. Lily wasn't alone in this fight. Does Dr. Evans know? She asked suddenly, remembering how the veterinarian had shown her the discrepancy in the first place. Harrison's expression confirmed her suspicion. Catherine has been instrumental in the investigation. She's been tracking health records for suspected identity swaps for over a year. A new thought occurred to Lily, an unsettling one. What if Crane suspects something? My sudden hiring, your visit today. He's not a fool. No, he's not, Harrison agreed grimly. Which is why you must be extremely careful. If Victor believes you're a threat to his operation, your position here could become precarious in more ways than one. The implied danger hung in the air between them. Lily had heard rumors about competitors who crossed Victor Crane, about their sudden financial troubles or mysterious accidents. She had dismissed them as jealous gossip, but now they seemed far more plausible. I understand, she said quietly. I'll be discreet. Thunder chose that moment to approach, nickering softly as he reached over the fence to nudge Lily's shoulder. She stroked his nose, drawing comfort from his presence. He trusts you completely, Harrison observed. That's rare. Lily nodded, a lump forming in her throat. We've been through a lot together. And there may be more challenges ahead, Harrison cautioned. The next 3 weeks are critical, not just for the case against Crane, but for Thunder's future. As if understanding the gravity of the conversation, the stallion pressed his forehead against Lily's chest, standing quietly while she wrapped her arms around his powerful neck. Whatever happens, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, I won't let you down. Harrison watched the tableau with a mixture of respect and concern. I know you won't. But remember, Lily, this is bigger than one horse. Crane's operation has affected dozens of animals and defrauded buyers across the industry. The evidence we gather could shut it down permanently. Lily met his gaze over Thunder's black mane. I'm in, all the way. As Harrison departed with a promise to be in touch soon, Lily remained with Thunder in the paddock, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on her shoulders. She had come to Crane Manor to protect one horse she loved. Now she found herself in the middle of a fraud investigation that could rock the equestrian world. And Victor Crane, with his cold eyes and ruthless business tactics, stood at the center of it all. The day of the Millfield Classic dawned clear and crisp, a perfect late summer morning for what was considered the most prestigious showing event of the season. The palatial Millfield estate had been transformed into a showcase of equestrian excellence, with multiple arenas, viewing stands, and hospitality tents spread across its manicured grounds. Flags fluttered in the gentle breeze, and the soft murmur of an arriving crowd created a backdrop of anticipation. Lily stood in the preparation area, her hands steady as she braided Thunder's mane with practiced precision. The past 3 weeks had been a delicate balancing act, training the stallion to peak condition while secretly gathering evidence of Crane's fraudulent intentions. Every entry form, every registration confirmation, every catalog listing for the Millfield Classic identified the majestic black stallion as Thor's Symphony, with his falsified prestigious bloodline prominently featured. Harrison and Dr. Evans had collected it all, building a case that would be presented to Equestrian Federation officials immediately following today's competition. The Federation's integrity team was already on site, ostensibly for routine supervision but actually prepared to witness the final piece of evidence: Victor Crane publicly presenting a horse under false documentation at the industry's most prominent event. "You look beautiful," Lily whispered to Thunder, securing the last braid with a small band. The stallion stood patiently, his coat gleaming like polished obsidian under the preparation tent lights. 3 weeks of careful conditioning had transformed him from a recovering racehorse to a show-quality champion. His injured leg, now fully healed, no longer showed any hint of the trauma that had ended his racing career. Miguel approached, leading with Thunder's custom show saddle. "Hopkins is asking for a status update," he said quietly. "Crane wants Thunder in the warm-up ring in 20 minutes. Lily nodded, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in her stomach. "We're almost ready." Miguel glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Harrison just arrived. He's with the Federation officials near the main arena." This was it then, the culmination of weeks of careful planning and evidence gathering. By the end of the day, Victor Crane's fraudulent operation would be exposed, but first, Thunder had to perform. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget," Lily said, meeting Miguel's eyes with fierce determination. Thunder's division was scheduled for mid-morning, giving them time for a proper warm-up. As Lily led him to the practice ring, she noticed Crane in the VIP section, entertaining a group of prospective clients. He nodded curtly in her direction, his expression revealing nothing of the pride he must feel in the magnificent animal she led, or the duplicity behind his presentation. The warm-up went flawlessly. Thunder responded to Lily's lightest cues, his movements powerful yet precise. Other competitors watched with poorly disguised envy as the stallion executed perfect transitions between gaits, his conformation and training evident in every step. "He's magnificent," a familiar voice commented from the rail. Lily turned to find Dr. Evans watching, her clinical assessment underpinned by genuine admiration. "Yes, he is," Lily agreed, allowing herself a moment of pride in what they had accomplished together. "You've done remarkable work," the veterinarian continued, pitching her voice low. "The officials are in position. Everything is ready." A mixture of anticipation and dread coursed through Lily. "What happens after?" "Focus on the showing first," Dr. Evans advised. "One step at a time." As their warm-up time concluded, Lily guided Thunder toward the holding area where competitors waited to enter the main arena. The announcer's voice echoed across the grounds, introducing each entry with flowery descriptions of bloodlines and achievements. Names of prestigious breeding programs and famous sires punctuated each introduction. Victor Crane appeared beside them, immaculate in a tailored suit that probably cost more than 6 months of Lily's salary. "Excellent work, Miss Morgan," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. "Thor's Symphony appears ready to make quite an impression." Lily met his gaze steadily. "He certainly will, sir." If Crane detected the double meaning in her words, he gave no indication. "I've just been speaking with potential buyers from Europe. They're quite interested in his breeding potential, given his exceptional lineage. The casual reference to the fraudulent bloodline made Lily's jaw tighten, but she maintained her professional demeanor. I'm sure they are. Crane studied her face for a moment, perhaps sensing something amiss in her tone. But before he could question her further, the announcer called their number. Up next, entry number 42, Thor's Symphony, owned by Victor Crane of Crane Manor Farms, handled by Lily Morgan. This was it, the moment of truth. Make me proud, Crane said, stepping back to allow Lily and Thunder to proceed toward the entrance gate. Lily took a deep breath, centering herself as she had taught Thunder to do before each performance. Together, they moved forward into the spotlights of the main arena. The hushed anticipation of the crowd was palpable as Thunder entered with measured, confident strides. Lily guided him to the center of the arena, where they would demonstrate his conformation, movement, and training for the judging panel. From the corner of her eye, she could see the Federation officials watching intently, clipboards at the ready. For the next 12 minutes, Lily and Thunder performed the routine they had perfected over the past weeks. The stallion moved like living art, his power contained and channeled through Lily's subtle direction. His transitions were flawless, his carriage proud without being tense. As they completed the final pattern and came to a halt before the judges, Lily knew they had given a championship-worthy performance. Applause rippled through the audience. The head judge nodded his approval, making notes on his scoring sheet. In the VIP section, Victor Crane stood with a satisfied smile, already accepting congratulations from those around him. As Lily led Thunder from the arena, a Federation official approached, accompanied by James Harrison and a woman in a formal blazer, whom Lily recognized as the Federation's Chief Integrity Officer. Miss Morgan, the official said formally, please proceed to Inspection Area 3 with your horse. Confusion crossed the faces of nearby competitors. Post-performance inspections were typically conducted randomly or for the top-placed horses after results were announced, not immediately following a showing. Victor Crane emerged from the VIP section, his expression darkening as he observed the exchange. What's the meaning of this? He demanded, striding toward them. The results haven't even been tabulated. Mr. Crane, the integrity officer replied calmly, we have reason to conduct an immediate verification of entry number 42's identity. Please accompany us to the inspection area. Crane's face remained composed, but Lily noticed the slight tightening around his eyes, the first crack in his perfect facade. This is highly irregular, he objected. You're disrupting the competition. Nevertheless, it is within our authority, the official countered. Please cooperate, or we will be forced to disqualify your entry immediately. A small crowd had begun to gather, drawn by the unusual confrontation. Lily could see Hopkins hovering at the periphery, his expression a mixture of confusion and suspicion. With no graceful way to refuse, Crane nodded curtly. Very well, but I expect a full explanation for this disruption. The inspection area was a small tent equipped with microchip readers, documentation stations, and a veterinary examination space. Dr. Evans was already waiting when they arrived, along with 2 additional Federation officials. We are conducting identity verification, the integrity officer announced formally. This procedure is being recorded. She nodded toward a small camera set up in the corner of the tent. What followed was a methodical dismantling of the facade Crane had constructed. Thunder's microchip was scanned, revealing his original registration as Thunder's Hope. His distinctive markings were photographed and compared to both sets of documentation, the falsified Thor's Symphony papers and the original registration Harrison had preserved. Throughout the process, Crane remained stonily silent, his attorney, summoned by urgent phone call, speaking for him, insisting that Crane had purchased the horse in good faith, unaware of any documentation discrepancies. Lily stood with Thunder, one hand resting on his neck, providing calm amid the tension. The stallion remained steady, seeming to understand the gravity of the moment. When the verification was complete, the integrity officer addressed the room. Based on conclusive evidence, entry number 42 has been identified as Thunder's Hope, not Thor's Symphony as registered for this competition. This constitutes a violation of Federation regulations regarding misrepresentation of pedigree and identity. She turned to Crane. Mr. Crane, your entry is disqualified, and pending further investigation, you may face additional sanctions. The aftermath unfolded like a storm. Crane's quiet fury, the flurry of press who somehow caught wind of the scandal, the shocked whispers of the equestrian community as word spread throughout the showgrounds. Through it all, Lily remained with Thunder, shielding him from the chaos as best she could. Hours later, as the day's events concluded and most competitors departed, Lily found herself in a quiet corner of the stabling area with Harrison, Dr. Evans, and a subdued Thunder. "What happens now?" she asked, the question that had been burning in her mind all day. Harrison smiled gently. "The Federation will conduct a full investigation, but the evidence is overwhelming. Crane's operation is finished." "And Thunder?" Lily pressed, the question that mattered most to her. "That's actually been resolved," Dr. Evans interjected. "With Richardson's widow's blessing, the court has granted temporary custody to the person with the strongest claim to understanding the horse's true identity and needs." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "Who?" Harrison's eyes twinkled. "You, Lily Morgan. The barefoot girl who walked into an auction and recognized a champion when everyone else saw only dollar signs." Tears sprang to Lily's eyes as she turned to Thunder, who nudged her gently as if confirming the news. "But I can't afford to keep him. My family's farm is about to receive a substantial consultation fee for your expert testimony in the Federation's case," Harrison explained. "Plus, I happen to need a talented young trainer for my breeding program. Someone who understands that horses are more than investments." As the meaning of his words sank in, Lily pressed her face against Thunder's neck, overcome with emotion. 6 weeks ago, she had walked barefoot into an auction, desperate for one last moment with a horse she loved. Now she would walk out as his rightful guardian, and with a future brighter than she had dared to imagine. Thunder, the real Thunder's hope, nickered softly, his breath warm against her hair. No one at that auction could have predicted this outcome, least of all Victor Crane. But sometimes, Lily reflected, the strongest bonds transcend paperwork and pedigrees. Sometimes the true value of a champion lies not in his bloodlines, but in his heart, and in the heart of the barefoot girl who never stopped believing in him.